episode. You guys are tuning in. The fullest chat room on. We're doing this live for if you're listening to this recorded. The fullest chat room we've had so far at this early in the game. Thanks everyone for listening in. Appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Joined as always by my homies. Killer Whale, what's up, buddy?
Hello. It's pretty crazy. 100 episodes. Hard to believe.
Just under we're almost at a year of doing this.
November
right?
15th. Yeah, was our first episode, I believe.
So stupid me earlier was sitting here and was just like, trying to figure out math. I'm like, okay, so that's 300 days. That's like it was ridiculous. But the moral of the story is when you're not at the 9 to 5, don't try and work. So Prince, I hear you chirping already.
I just like hearing you busy trying to math and all that. It's always fun.
It's a brutal life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tough. So 100 episodes, everybody. We decided to kind of get a couple of the more popular, or I shouldn't say popular, but
Dale, you can say popular.
Shut up, Boomer. No, I'm just kidding. So we're joined with none other than two of our favorites, Crypto Bully. What's going on?
Hey.
How's it going?
Good, guys. I was thinking back. I was the first guest, actually. So I was here that fateful day last November, and
that's crazy.
Kids. Just stupid kids.
Nostalgic.
Yeah. What's funny too is someone the other day and Jabus's Telegram group messaged me and was like, "Hey man, listening to some of the early episodes of the podcast, and I'm right bracing myself like, oh God, because not being honest, listening to some of them, it's not like it was rough around the edges, so to say. And he's like, man, I can't believe how far you guys have come since your first one. He's like, you guys actually sound like you're comfortable now, and I kind of chuckled. And what's funny is, if you haven't ever been on a podcast, it is a little nerve-wracking, even though when you're just recording right away, and no one's really listening, it's still pretty nerve-wracking for me. But sorry, I'm babbling. Had too many Busch Lights. But other guest tonight is Crypto Messiah. What's up, Messi? How's it going, buddy?
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining on. Let's just kind of dive right in. Everyone, wants to know where you guys see the markets. I don't know, Messiah, do you want to maybe kick things off and just see, give your take a little?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's definitely an interesting time for Bitcoin and just these crypto markets in general. For me, I'm not so much as concerned about Bitcoin, as a lot of folks are. I think that, with Bitcoin, it's one of those things where now is a time you could buy, and with a fair degree of certainty, I think in a few years, at the most, you'll end up selling for higher than you bought. So that's all great, but the real question is, and there's definitely, in my opinion, another bubble left in Bitcoin. But the real question is, how much Bitcoin are you going to have before that bubble occurs? So I'm always trying to stack Bitcoin. I want to have as much Bitcoin as possible. So when I'm, able to make my grand exit one day, I'm able to make off like a champion. And there's really not that many ways to do that. Of course, you can margin trade. That's I'm sure everybody here is fucking dabbled in margin trading. I mean,
probably too much.
Not that many people are successful in it. I'm not the best margin trader myself. But the thing is a lot of times with margin trading, people don't realize just how fucking wrecked you can get. Mm-hmm. And then because imagine getting margin called and then you look at your fucking account and you literally don't have anything. Your balance is zero now. Okay. Or you can mess around with some altcoins, which, is kind of my forte. And I like altcoins because no matter how wrecked you get on an altcoin, generally, if you can see the warning signs early enough, you're always able to escape with a piece of yourself intact. So essentially, you have more quarters to put in the machine, more chances. Now, granted, you might still be fucking wrecked. If you've bought top or if you've held something that's just trash all the way down, but it does give you an opportunity to keep playing the game. So I'm really interested in these altcoin markets right now. I do think that we're at a point or a period in time. If you look on Twitter, you'll notice that, there's no fresh meat coming in. Okay. It's all your characters, that you've come to know and you've interacted with on Twitter. It's the same fucking people, and no new people are coming into this. And if you look at all the markets, I think the downtrends seem to be over. And I know I can't, exactly show charts here, but when you really are looking for a good altcoin to buy, you want to look for something that's kind of been in a tight sideways range for a good period of time. And there's so many opportunities like that right now, and just so many altcoin projects that are extremely undervalued, relative to what they could be. And, and even, with that being said, undervalued is an incredibly relative term. I mean, all these altcoins, and I always stress this, are pump and dumps. Never, and I've actually had friends. I had a friend ask me earlier today, hey, if you had $100,000 to put in an altcoin for a year, which one would it be? And I said, what the fuck are you talking about? Who would do that? But you want to ride the pump, and then you want to get out. And I'll let Bully speak for a little bit now to hear his take, because I'm interested in in that. But later, when we get back to me, I can kind of go over and just kind of a reiteration of what I said on one of my earlier appearances, just kind of a profit taking strategies. People have such an issue dumping.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that holds
too.
people back. And even with me, it does hurt me to dump things sometimes, but you have to it's got to be methodical, and you have to learn how to take pleasure, and give yourself that same dopamine reward when you dump as, when you're market buying something like, oh yeah, oh, I'm filling these bags, baby. I'm filling them up. I'm like, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like when you're just filling the bags and you just know you're filling them with fire, and like, it's the same feeling. But anyway, enough of me. What's up, Bully?
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually wrote a few things down. You're sort of covering a lot of good topics, so I didn't want to forget anything. But I probably wouldn't ask me about selling coins, because I may get attached to an altcoin here and there.
May or have been.
Maybe have been.
We all have, so it's okay.
So
with bragging.
maybe that's the best way. A lot of trading comes down to just like getting your teeth kicked in a few times, and then you're like, wow, I'm not going to do that again. So if you buy an ICO at 6 cents and it happens to go to $5, you probably next time around you'll probably sell at $5. But they're volatile instruments and they move quick, so you have to take pleasure in dumping. But dumping is sort of like this difficult thing, because there's no enjoyment around it other than the cold profit. You can't brag about it. People don't really care about it. And even if you post about it on Twitter, people will be like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would you say that? So yeah, I mean, it's certainly a skill, and setting automated orders is really a helpful way to do it. And just like having your targets and knowing, having kind of a preordained exit, so you don't get caught up in kind of the emotion of it. Back to margin trading, we've all been wrecked on margin trading, of course, and I thought it was interesting today that Poloniex announced they're stopping margin trading for US customers. And
it really takes away like the last nice feature that they had to me.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it was only like 2.5x. So compared to like the Wild West that is BitMEX, it's relatively tame. But US regulators hate margin, and particularly unaccredited retail investors. So I think what happened obviously is Goldman bought them, or Circle bought them, and they came in and all the lawyers were like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing over there? You haven't answered support tickets in a year, and you have all of these garbage assets, and you're allowing margin trading for US customers. So it seems like the lawyers finally got run of the hen house there, and they're just cleaning it up, which is probably good. And the alternative is being a one broker, where the SEC comes in and just brings a hammer down. So I guess I've heard a lot of people today complaining about Polinex's move, but for them, I think it's the right move. And it's you're sort of seeing the regulators slowly kind of keep cleaning the space up and marching through and taking on harder and harder cases. So it'll be interesting. And, I'm happy to dive into kind of the legal trend side of things. But one thing I'm certainly noticing is that, like this is how regulators work in the financial space and just sort of generally, is that they don't usually make really fast moves. They're pretty methodical. They're pretty slow, and they just sort of march along. So crypto moves so fast. I mean, it seems like every 2 hours there's a new news cycle on crypto Twitter, and you're just like struggling to keep up with all of the information. But regulators are the exact opposite, where they're just like slowly watching and deliberating, and and then eventually they'll have enough information or data to make their decisions. So that's one thing I've been impressed with all along, is the sort of slowness of the regulators to react to this new asset class, because it's the Wild West in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of fuck offs and scam artists and bullshit in the space, but
Totally.
they've done a good job at sort of measuring their response, not to come in and blow it up and kill the innovation that's occurring. This technology could represent the future of the internet, of commerce, of logistics, of 1,000 different industries. So, I think props to them for actually recognizing that. And, the CFTC's chairman, he's always had some great views towards cryptocurrency, and this week he even came out with some more, saying it's revolutionary, it's incredible to see it develop in front of our eyes, which I agree with. But that with that comes a lot of dirtbags and scam artists, and so part of our job is to ferret those guys out and call them out. And I think generally the space does a pretty good job of self-regulating, but at the same time, it's not bad to have some boundaries with which the market can have some certainty. And I don't want to drone on too long. This will just be my last point, but I advise a lot of folks who are in this space, whether they're starting companies or are seeking legal advice. And without saying any specifics, a lot of people find it frustrating that there's just like no guidance out there. And as an attorney, it's hard to counsel folks trying to get involved in the space when there's literally nothing out there other than like a few random statements by regulators. So, the more regulatory guidance we can get, the better, just to know kind of where the bound lines are, and then everyone can work within that. So I cede my time.
Are you kind of surprised at how measured of an approach the regulators have taken? Because I think given how deep in the woods we all are, we can name so many things where we're like, this is a scam, this is illegal, this is probably illegal. But I feel like they've taken a very cautious approach.
Yeah, they have. And state regulators, to their credit, seem to be the most active. I mean, the SEC is certainly like catching the real scam artists, and the CFTC's caught a few as well. But it was really like the Texas Department of Banking who caught BitConnect and issued that order, if you guys recall. And then the New York Attorney General issued that super detailed report on the exchanges, which was really interesting, and had like just a massive amount of data that is important to be able to use these exchanges transparently, because a lot of them seem to be trading in their own self-interest or don't have proper investment protections in place to protect retail investors in particular. So yeah, I am actually a little surprised that the regulators haven't come in a little harder. But again, I do think that that's a conscious effort not to stifle innovation, which is applaudable. And I think a lot of people would be like, well, fuck the regulators, screw them, we should be able to do our own thing. But as an attorney, I don't agree with that.
And some, Messiah or Bully, correct me here if I'm wrong, but don't you kind of feel that this space maybe needs some regulation to really start the influx of new retail investors or even institutional money?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure everyone knows my thoughts on that. So I'm curious to hear Messy's thoughts on that, because I live in this stuff a lot. So as more of an investor, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, Mess.
I definitely think so, and I think at our current, just the current stage of where crypto is, we do need more I guess, clear boundaries, because regulation makes people feel safe. And if you want new retail investors to come into the space, they have to feel safe and they have to feel like it's regulated and they have to feel like they're not doing something that's sketchy. I mean, if you look at the last wave of people that came in, of course you've got your fair share of just grandmas and average Joes or whatever, but I feel like the last wave was still like pretty degenerate, for lack of a better term. And you did have a lot of institutional money come in last time, but I mean, you really didn't have this like really hardcore Silicon Valley like crazy money like getting ready to get injected yet. And I think, and this is not, and maybe it won't be a popular view because I'm not one of those guys that's going to say, Bitcoin's the future, it's the world currency, blah, 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 because I don't believe that. And in fact, just not knowing what the future of Bitcoin is something that's scary to me because, it could be a flash in a pan, it could be a fad. Are we all here just like riding the most insane, just biggest waves, or biggest wave, that we've ever seen in our entire life and that there will ever be. And that's why I really think that, like Bitcoin probably has a nice, it's got one or two more big pumps left in it. Tops. And I don't think it's sustainable long term, like I said, which is unpopular. And I plan on largely exiting at the next bubble, for the most part. And of course, I'll keep some skin in the game for the what if scenario. And just because I do enjoy doing this, I mean, this has been my job for a few years now, and it's been something that I've enjoyed, and I like. But you really aren't going to see more, more retail people come into the space without regulation. And I'm sure, because everybody paid their taxes, right? I'm sure everybody kind of got to understand this a little bit when they were trying to file their taxes. And especially like when you look at how crypto exchanges, like actually, when you downloaded that CSV and they report your trades and you have like so many fucking, like you could have filled one order, but it came out as like 100 fucking trades on the CSV. It really is a huge pain in the ass. So yeah, I'd like to see continued regulation. I'd like to see exchanges continuing to kind of abide by these regulations, make people feel safe. And I think a lot of the upcoming custody solutions are going to be really important for bringing more retail in too. And I was even reading something about Gemini and insured custody or something like that, which is a huge step. I mean, it's like a bank. You can have your assets on exchange, and if they get hacked, then you're not a target. You're safe.
It's huge. It's huge, really.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the biggest myths with Coinbase forever. Is people were like, Coinbase is the most dangerous place you can store your coins. Like you have you have no power over your assets, which is kind of true. But they do have insurance, and that's something they've had for quite some time. So I believe that guarded against hacks, against misuse of keys, anything like that.
I can't even imagine what the premiums on that insurance.
I
bet they're paying out the ass for that.
Must be, yeah. That's kind of what I always thought. When I read about that, I'm like, what kind of policy covers this? Crypto, because it's like, how can you model a risk score on crypto? It's like there's not even enough information. It hasn't been around long enough. But
just the highest risk score possible.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I want to hear, I guess, I think you were tweeting today, Messi, about dumping and when you kind of need to pull the trigger, or I don't want to put words in your mouth because I just kind of read the tweet, but talk a little bit more about that, about your experience going through a couple of different cycles now, and how that works into your strategy.
One of the things that I struggled with the most initially was, knowing when to sell. Because you have seen things go 100x. You've seen, so much crazy shit in crypto, and especially, you can imagine as a guy that comes in, he's got his $1,000 in crypto, he lands his 100x, and I mean that's life changing. Now he's got 100 G's, and that can do a lot for you. So, it's easy to get stuck in this mentality that if I just hold on a little bit longer, because it's not just about the money, it's about your life being changed. So if I just can hold on to this bag for a little longer, then it could change my life because, I've bought this amazing bag. Well, that doesn't work. because the chances that you have the next Ant shares, which became Neo, or XVG or anything like that in your bag are insanely small. So what I always preach to people is to just, and this is, I'm more of a fundamental investor, and this plays more to my strengths. I do use TA to enter and exit at times and to determine appropriate levels. But when you enter something, you need to know when you're going to get out. So, when you enter a project, you're like, if I enter a really illiquid shitcoin, for example, so I'm going to never get out, because when you enter a super illiquid shitcoin, my only strategy is dollar cost averaging, because the fundamentals of the project are super solid. I'm going to keep averaging in this because at its current valuation, I know that if I dollar cost average in over a period of time, that at some point in the future, I will be able to sell for a higher price than the dollar cost average that I enter the project with. And I love investing in these kind of low cap projects with solid fundamentals that have news catalysts in the near future, mainnets being released, different things like that. So when I enter, I'm going to go ahead and tell myself, okay, you need to keep track of your dollar cost average, and then you need to set targets based on multiples of that dollar cost average. Because if you don't do that, if you haven't already accepted the fact ahead of time that you're going to sell at predetermined levels, then you're not going to sell, because the euphoria of you actually seeing this finally going up after either dollar cost averaging in or watching it go sideways for so long is going to render you unable to think appropriately about the situation. So example, you buy something at $1, then you buy it at 50 cents. Okay, let's say you buy equal amounts, your dollar cost average is 75 cents. So my first target for that, I'm gonna take a little bit off at a 2x from my 75 cents. Not the whole thing, just a little bit. And then when I hit that 3x, I'm gonna take a little bit more off. When I hit that 4x, I'm gonna take a little bit more off. 5x for me is where it ends. I don't get over 5x's anymore. And people say, oh, that sucks for you. And this is where I always talk about compounding, because the more something goes up, the more likely that it is that it's going to come down. And what if it's the last time that it ever goes up and it starts coming down, and you just you've gotten fucked. You watch this shit go to the moon and come back, and you're still in the rocket while it crashes. You don't want to be that guy. And if you set these predetermined targets and you've already accepted the fact that you're going to sell, it's not so hard. So when you actually do this, this is my full-time job. So I'm always researching, okay, what's still in accumulation ranges? What am I dollar cost averaging into? When I take a little bit off at each predetermined level, I always know where that's going. And sometimes that means, hey, this is my job. That means, hey, I'm going to pay my bills with this. Or, I'm going to buy something nice with this. Wife and I just bought a house. So, I took a little off and I made some profit, and, we used it to buy some furniture for the home. So always be taking profits and always have a plan for where those profits are going. And, certain people have, if you're a big believer in Bitcoin because it's the future, whatever, then, take 50% of the profits you ever make and just put it in straight Bitcoin. Start a little savings account for yourself. But that's what you have to do. And if you don't do it, you're not going to dump.
I think one thing that's very crucial and important when you enter a trade is to establish your targets and then set those sells, and then just periodically check in on them, but don't change them. Especially in my opinion, especially the first couple ones. Leave those, because there's been often times where maybe I've gone back to ones and changed them and then end up not being underwater on a bag. So I think that's key.
Yeah, you change your targets because you get too optimistic and they never hit. Like, you can't keep moving the goalposts. You have to have these predetermined targets. You have to take the profit. And here's the thing, like for me at least, I do get this dopamine reward, like when I'm buying a bag. I mean, especially like if it's on fucking IDEX and I'm having to sign every transaction, it's just like, oh yeah, like I'm sitting there just slamming that button on my ledger. It's amazing. Just, oh yeah, I'm fucking buying this bag. But when you take something off and you are prepared, you do have options on the table, and you do have you've already kind of allocated where that money's going to go, then you still get that euphoria of getting to enter something else, if you think of it that way. Because I like Republic Protocol. I dollar cost average into that, and I exited probably 3/4 of my bag when they released their mainnet. Always sell the fucking news, no matter what. Sell half of your position, whatever it is. I mean, 99% of the time, you're going to be able to enter again cheaper. It doesn't matter what that fucking news is. And that's another thing, a reason why I love news events, is because things will generally pump into a news event. Sell the news. Dr. Trodgar in chat is saying, always be capitulating. He's right. You want to always be fucking dumping. Look for reasons to dump constantly. That will save your fucking ass. But when I have actually taken some of this off, like with Republic Protocol, when I took a little bit off, I knew exactly where that money was going to go. I had a fantastic looking chart that I'd been eyeing, I'd been watching, I'd researched everybody in the team, the market cap, looked at all the top wallets, seen like everything that was going on, done my whole process in it. And hey, now I can increase my position in this other thing that has less downside that I'm really excited about entering. So if you continually do this, you'll actually see, while you continue to, you'll be exposed to the market, which is something not everybody likes, especially if it's a really nasty bear market. But at the same time, you're going to have an opportunity to get in a large variety of projects, and your baseline will continually grow because you're constantly taking profits off and investing them in things that are bottom or what you think is bottom.
Hey, just out of curiosity, have you followed the ledger status walk into equities? Are you starting to go over or do any Forex work, or are you still all
No, I do have a large position in URA, which is a Global X Uranium ETF, for a variety of reasons. The chart is the chart's super dope. I mean, Ledger didn't even tell me about it. I think like I was just talking about it one day, and he was like, "Holy shit, dude, I've been stacking that too." So like we have been talking about it, but it's for me, that's a sick play to enter and like wait like a year or two. I'm not a traditional asset trader, a traditional asset guy, but I am an opportunist, and I do have money to invest in traditional assets. So that's why I was excited about that.
How the fuck is uranium legal to buy? I mean, even futures.
That's fun. I don't fucking know, but I mean, essentially, clean energy is the future, and for the foreseeable future, fusion technologies are out of grasp for us. So we're going to have to rely on clean, safe fission technologies, which all rely on refined uranium. Well, apparently, the demand from China alone for uranium, based on all the plans they have to build these nuclear reactors, is 4 times as great as the current ability to produce uranium. So by buying into the uranium ETF, my thought was, I could get exposure to a large sector of this uranium market, the companies that mine it, refine it, produce it, etc. So that's what I've done.
Yeah, it's like Ledger told me about the uranium thing, and that's why I hopped on board. And I was doing research, and I felt like I was in Blood Diamond, where like I was going to these companies' websites, and I was like, "Am I going to be on a list, like trying to like look at unrefined
you
uranium sellers?"
Like, I don't even know if we should be talking with you right now.
Goodbye. I'm out. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm up like 15% on the trade from like 2 weeks ago, so I'm happy.
Oh yeah,
now,
it's definitely right there at the top of the trend line. Yeah. We'll see. For me, I'm gonna hold it. Probably a year. You definitely want to get the long-term gains on that, and I mean, I think it's got 4 or 5x potential in it. So we'll see.
What about you, Bully? Are you playing traditional stuff a little bit more?
Not really. It was interesting listening to Messi's view of kind of what Bitcoin's future is and sort of the future of cryptocurrency in general. I mean, I think I have a bit of a different view on it, particularly kind of the ICO market. So I think about this a lot, where late last year and early this year, there was just this craze to get into any ICO, but nobody really stepped back and thought about the fact that like these tokens don't represent anything, and they're just like made up. I mean, they're not equity.
Utility tokens, they're trash.
Yeah, it's just like complete nonsense, right? So either we have to like, something has to happen. I mean, because that can't happen again. So either ICOs are dead and it's not a feasible option for an asset class, or we have to create ICO 2.0. And I've been talking about this a lot on my Twitter and elsewhere, is that, you know, the security tokens and kind of the infrastructure component of the ICOs, I think, are really the interesting part of that technology. So, you know, the ICOs themselves aren't even a product, rather the technology of
tokenization.
Yeah, tokenizing equity, basically. So you have this mechanism to keep track of cap tables, and so you don't lose share certificates, and like it just streamlines a lot of corporate formalities that I see fuck up every day and cause like multi-billion-dollar lawsuits when, you know, if they were just on the blockchain and somebody had these equity tokens sitting in a wallet, it would be a lot easier to prove ownership or track the trail and things like that. So, you know, I don't think in 10 years cryptocurrency will be anywhere close to what it currently resembles, but rather it'll form sort of the underlying infrastructure of a brand new kind of technology and asset class. So that's really kind of what I've been focusing on the last 4 or 5,
Bully,
6
I actually like 100% agree with that. You know, and I believe in a tokenized future, but I don't necessarily know if Bitcoin's going to be the thing. You know, because Bitcoin is by nature, you know, anti-government. And it, you know, it does I think represent a lot of things that aren't sustainable. You know, especially with, you know, the way it's mined, the energy demands. I'm extremely bullish on Ethereum. A lot of people hate on me. You know, I'm kind of an Ethereum maximalist. But I do think that a scaling solution will be achieved for Ethereum. And, you know, I do think that I love speaking about operating systems, you know, when I'm talking about this, because, you know, people say like, oh, you know, what operating system do you use? You know, most people, of course, yeah, there's Linux, but most people are thinking like, oh, is he asking me Mac OS or Windows, right? So you have Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I think that, you know, these, you know, Mac OS and Windows have been around for so long because they are everywhere. They're, you know, when you are a developer and you're writing code, you want to have the most, you want to have the biggest user base possible that has access to your code, and you want to have the most users possible on your applications. So you're going to write them for the most used operating systems. Well, you know, right now that's Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think that, you know, if Ethereum can continue to be, I think probably arguably the #1 developed for platform in cryptocurrency. I mean, due mainly to the ICO craze and stuff, that it'll continue to maintain its share as, you know, a leader in the space, especially for, you know, anything that requires any kind of tokenization will, you know, continue to be on Ethereum. So like Billy was saying, security tokens, different, you know, kind of equity structures, and even, you know, you can get into really interesting things like corporate governance and stuff like that. And then with these security tokens, I mean, they could even pay out and, I mean, directly on the blockchain to holders of the equity and companies and stuff. I mean, it's really cool. It's really traceable and transparent. And by having all these assets tokenized, you really are removing a lot of the barriers to entry to the market. You know, and if we could streamline the accreditation process, you know, to where we can, you know, give your average Joe the ability to just buy a little bit of some companies that he feels like he likes. I mean, that's going to be a big deal in the future, 100%, if not the future of you know, where this technology is going.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, the corporate governance stuff is interesting. I mean, what you were sort of saying is that if you hold a token in your wallet, it's pretty easy to basically airdrop in a dividend. So instead of having to like find all the different shareholders and distribute the dividend manually, it would just automatically work. And then coin holders could vote based on their sort of percentage ownership. And it's all so clean and it works so well that the technology really lends itself towards a lot of those corporate formalities. It's interesting. I just pulled up a chart. Did you guys notice that Bitcoin is flying off the shelves?
I was just gonna say that.
Up or down?
Up.
Yeah.
Oh
so,
yeah, it is. It is. It's rallied about $150.
Yeah. So you're welcome, crypto community. I am drinking, as a matter of fact. So maybe it's.
That is what it is. That's what it is.
Thank
Do
you,
you guys
Billy.
notice this premium these days that Finex has over every other exchange? It seems it's like $40 premium at times.
Huh, that's actually really interesting. I wonder if it has
Yeah.
anything to do with the fact that Finex is margin exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I find it interesting, just watching it. It's been like this for the last week or so. So it's definitely something I've been watching. Yeah.
I love the
Really
little
interesting.
arbitrage opportunities in crypto. I mean, I remember when alt season was going crazy, there were times where you'd like try to arbitrage and send to one exchange versus the other, and then inevitably get wrecked. But it's still very fun to try. So
Sitting there like furious at the Bitcoin blockchain because the confirmation times like. Oh, yeah,
I'll send Ripple and then I'll convert it.
Oh yeah. No, I've totally. That's so degenerate, but I've totally been there. Like, oh man.
You want a funny story with talking about that real quick, Bully, is one time I went to send, I transferred it all to Litecoin, and then in the meantime I bought it and went to transfer it, and it just sat there. I think it was on Cryptopia, and it literally proceeded just to fucking dump to holy hell in like the 15-20 minutes that I did that, and it just sat there and didn't even send that email for me to confirm my
God.
withdrawal.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, I was so
Dude,
pissed.
that's straight purgatory.
I about sold everything and walked away. I was so
It was
pissed.
like, welcome to the jungle.
Bully, I'm curious to hear real quick before we kind of move on your input on the legal stuff coming down with everything. There was that ruling that came out today. Just kind of give your input and take on that.
Yeah, no. So the CFTC, which governs commodities, and the SEC, which governs securities, both of which are U.S. regulators, seem to be having a little bit of not a turf war. Maybe they're sort of partners now on some of these things. But the order that came out today was an affirmation in the federal court of a decision that happened a few years ago that basically said, well, we think that this bullshit cryptocurrency scam you were offering was a commodity, so we have jurisdiction. Or at least we think that it's a question of fact for the jury, which is an important distinction. And that happened recently in an order on the security side that ICO you saw all these sexy headlines like ICOs are deemed securities. But what really happened was that the judge ruled that, well, we think that it's a close enough call that it's a factual question that could be submitted to a jury. So it's kind of a technical legal point, but it's important. So the judge isn't saying, yes, all ICOs are securities. He's saying, well, I think you can make the argument, so let's let 12 people decide it. And that's basically what happened today with the CFTC as well, saying, we think there's an argument to be made that this instrument that somebody used to scam investors out of money may be a commodity. The hard thing from sort of a regulatory standpoint is that once all of these different jurisdictions or all these different regulators claim jurisdiction, then you're like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do if I'm trying to offer these instruments for sale or, start a company that deals with these? So, the more regulatory guidance we get, unfortunately, the less clear it becomes at the moment. So hopefully, I think there's some effort in Congress and elsewhere to get some regulations on the books to give a little more guidance to actually, what is a commodity? What is a security? I think it's pretty well settled that Bitcoin's a commodity and that, Ethereum, I guess now is a commodity, although it started as a security. So it's just a big mess. And without a little guidance from the regulators, I think you're still going to see the market be skittish and continuing to dive into this space. So I just think there's a headwind right now against any more ICOs, any more expansion of this asset class until the regulators give a firm answer on how to proceed. And that may be intentional. They may just want to cool it down. there's some laws that already exist. There's this crowdfunding you may have heard of that was passed in the Jobs Act a couple of years ago, and that allowed unaccredited investors to participate in startups, but there were really strict rules around how much money you could accept and who could participate in things. So personally, I think that the accredited investor standards ought to be either gone away with or revised significantly to allow, you know, somebody to be able to pass a test instead of meet like the $200,000 income requirement to participate in unregistered securities, and maybe some sort of Jobs Act for crypto that allows companies to do ICOs within the bounds of existing securities regulations. So, you know, those two things would help relieve some of the regulatory pressures that companies in this space currently face, and would allow us to reestablish ourselves as leaders. You know, I've heard a lot of folks say, well, fuck it, like it's so complicated here, it's such a mess that we're just gonna like go abroad. You know, Malta's having a heyday right now, bringing companies like Binance, and I think even Bittrex just opened an office there. So, you know, there's some regulatory arbitrage globally happening where companies are like, the US is too complex, it's too hard to deal with, so we're going to go elsewhere. The trouble with that is that the arm of the SEC is long, as we saw this week with one broker. I mean, one broker wasn't even stationed here in the States. They just allowed US investors to participate. So that was enough. You know, I've been raising my eyebrows recently at like Binance and stuff, bragging about how they're in Malta. Well, it doesn't really matter if US investors are trading on your platform. That's jurisdiction right there. So it'll be interesting.
Ooh.
I know. I'm sorry.
No. But before we just release the fear porn, you know, to that point, when you look at something like Binance versus something like One Broker, I mean, when you look at One Broker, you look at a company that's offering no KYC, trading, the ability to trade with no KYC and unbacked securities on their platform with leverage. So I mean, there's like stocks and fucking shit you can trade on One Broker for like, you know, 20x, 30x leverage, not backed by anything. So I think there's a huge difference, you know, when we're talking about a company like Binance and somebody like One Broker. The next person to get fucked, if they're not already in the process of being fucked already, is whaleclub.co, which is the same fucking thing as One Broker. Just it's a bucket shop.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with you, Messi, in that there's significant material differences between One Broker and a cryptocurrency exchange. And I think the SEC would be less interested in coming in and shutting down a cryptocurrency exchange because, frankly, it doesn't even seem like they have a firm grasp on, well, what is a security versus what isn't, and, you know, all the various coins trading on these. I guess you'd have to do a sort of a line by line analysis. And, you know, I've also heard that Binance and others will require coins who want to be listed on their website to basically offer up an opinion that they are not a security. So I think they have some cover in that area, that they could say, well, you know, this coin wanted to be listed, they told us they weren't a security and we believed them in good faith. So you're right, there's a lot of reasons to think that Binance is a lot different than One Broker, and there's a lot of reasons to treat them differently. It's just, you know, all along I've sort of questioned the exchanges as kind of the weakest link in the cryptocurrency puzzle.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because if you go after them and those go down, it's like, well, the markets really go dark. But, you know, there are players like Circle, like I mentioned earlier, who are trying to clean up their act. And there's Gemini and Coinbase and other big actors that are getting involved. I mean, I think NASDAQ.
You know, the fact that Circle came in and bought Poloniex has always been baffling to me. Just because, you know, why would you come in and buy a place with such a tarnished reputation in a space where reputation is everything? You know, it doesn't make sense at all, because I don't give a fuck if who Poloniex is owned by now. It's still Poloniex, and I'm not going back there. Now, if Goldman backed Circle, you know, if they come out and said, hey, we're launching our own bad fucking ass exchange. Come check us out. Oh, and we have a RevLink program. That shit would be popping. So I just don't understand that decision at all. I mean, it makes no sense. And you know what? I believe these idiots paid like $400 million for Poloniex.
Polo got out at the
Blows
top.
my fucking mind.
They Charlie lead it.
Yeah, they sold the top.
Right.
Shout out to whoever that guy is who owns Poloniex. I want to say his name's like Jordan something.
He
Mr.
like
Mr. Poloniex.
he like made music or something.
Yeah.
Like his story is actually pretty inspiring. But I mean, the dude
He was an
walked away
artist.
like a fucking G. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and you know what? When he walked away, as part of the deal, I believe there was some sort of immunity or something granted to him for anything like that had been occurring in the past, volumes moving, et cetera, et cetera. I remember reading somewhere something about that. I'm not quite sure if
So
that's
he
even a real
just
thing,
made out
but
like a bad.
I was gonna say he definitely got that G status. That's for sure.
Yeah.
he did. Fucking straight gangster.
You usually buy the assets and the liability when you buy a company like that, so that's probably what you mean. I know you can waive criminal liability in an asset deal, but
Stop it. We want to believe you can.
Stop,
good,
stop
right,
getting
guys?
all lawyery here.
Yeah.
You just have to believe.
okay, I believe.
Okay, so we're gonna move on.
Tristan De Agosta.
There
His name. Thank you, Josh from chat. Yeah.
We're gonna move on to we're gonna play a little game called Who Said This. So how it's gonna work is I'll read a quote or say, refer to something from a previous podcast. All 99 are in play here. So prime example is gonna be like, which host says Bitrex or which host says Litcoin, and then I'll give
Dale.
three, say Dale, Killer, or Prince, and each one of you guys, because I know Bully and Messiah, I know you guys listen to every episode and never miss a beat. So
Yeah.
so I know you guys will get a choice here, and I have it written down. We'll go in a rotation so that the same person's not always giving the correct answer. So we'll start it out. All right, you guys, any questions?
No.
So
I'm just curious. Has Bully? Have you ever listened to your own episode?
which one?
Oh shit!
Big dog, watch out!
Okay.
Big dog. Big dog.
No, I've seriously been on here. I think this is my 4th time actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
King in the castle, king in the castle.
Get the green jacket. Why?
Okay.
Do I sound like an idiot, Messi? Is
No.
that what you're doing?
I was just curious if I was the only psychopath in here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
I listened to every episode Bully, on a side note, Barney said you sound cute in the chat. So
Oh, well, Barney owes me.
okay, so no questions. We'll do the first one. Which guest said you should never trust a person that gives target? Is it Ari Paul, Howard Linzone, or Pomp? We'll start with Bully.
I'm gonna guess that was Howard.
Okay, Messiah.
I only know who 2 of those people are, so I'm gonna go with Pomp on that.
Okay,
Pomp
Prince.
is busy giving price calls, so I don't know. I gotta say in this too. I already know the answer.
Yeah. Well, then
Howard,
give
final
it.
answer.
Oh.
Okay, it was Howard
I answered for you,
Linzone.
Prince.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Oh
Next
my
one.
God.
They do get a little harder as we go along. Who
They get
referred to need?
harder?
Which Messiah that missed the first one. Which host
Jesus
referred
Christ.
to Needcoin as the godfather of altcoins? Was it Prince, Killer, or Dale? Bully, or I'm sorry, Messiah. Go first.
Sounds like a very Prince thing to say.
Jesus.
Prince.
All right,
I don't even know who said that.
okay.
Oh.
I can't restrain myself any longer. This is a Dale line, okay? Dale,
That's
like,
what I was
his job is to
thinking.
butter up the guests.
Oh, I was so confused because Dale was asking the question. I was like, "There's no way it could be done." So I limited him.
Bully.
Are you asking me to guess when you just told
Yes.
me?
We just
How
told you.
hard is this?
Not even
Guess
fair.
anyway.
Not even fair. How does he get to guess after the answer's been
Yeah,
revealed?
exactly. It's Dale.
Okay, you're gonna miss that one, Bully.
Shit. What?
It was Dale. Yes, it was.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Next one. This is I'm reading this quote. So the guest said this word for word. We all talk about blockchain as a future. All the good things you told your family and friends about to buy. None of this has changed in a downtrend. Do you really need to panic? Who said that? Was it Korean Jew, Birch, or Gat?
This is definitely
Prince.
KJ. Has to be KJ.
Killer?
KJ.
Bully?
I don't know. I think that might be Birch.
Messiah?
I'm gonna go with Birch as well.
So this might not really be fair because
I don't know why
Prince
you're
and Killer
asking.
Yeah, why are you guys answering before?
Yeah, that might be
I'm wondering-
dumb.
I'm
But the
sitting
next
there
two,
wondering if
you guys might not get. So we'll just keep asking.
But
But yeah,
I mean,
it was.
you guys have
KJ,
literally
right?
been here for every one of the 100
Dale,
episodes.
stop asking for us to like give our.
Well, I don't think you guys know the answer. So, but we'll just ask you afterwards.
Prince, my
Wow.
opinion matters, okay? I need to be
Yeah,
consulted
yeah.
on these things.
Okay, you ready? Who said the most important thing about trading is timing? Was it Wolf, Loops, or Ledger? Messiah.
Ledger. Yeah, Ledger.
God,
Bully?
that sounds like something Wolf would say.
Now, do you boys want to add in?
No.
Here, no walls.
No.
I actually don't know.
I
So
don't
no.
actually know this.
I mean,
one.
just guess whatever I didn't guess because I've been wrong every time. So.
I'm guessing
Yeah, it
maybe
was
Loops.
Bitcoin Dad.
It was Loops actually said that.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, I was gonna guess that.
Okay, here we go.
Anyway.
If one of you guys missed this, who said they buy full retraces and breakouts exclusively? Was it Messiah, Bully, or Donnie?
Wait, what
Bully.
was the question?
Start it. Who
I
said
said
that they buy full retraces and breakouts only?
That sounds
Bully.
like I'll go with Donnie on that one.
I said
Messiah?
that was
I'm
me.
going. Yeah, I was going with Messi.
Yeah, it was Messiah.
Oh shit.
So out of you two, you guys each got one right. Prince
Guys,
got them all, and so did Killer.
Can,
so.
can we like talk about something that I know about, like ass eating or something?
All right, so now we're going to move on to all of our favorite memories. So which one of you two wants to start out? Your favorite
Hey.
memory so far on out of the 99 episodes?
So I got one I'll talk about. So I was looking up the last time I was on, and one of the episodes I was on was January 18th, which is like peak mania, but I think Bitcoin had fallen at that point to like 13 grand or something. So when I came on, Dale opened with this like you were in a bunker and you were under attack and you were
And now look at it.
right, exactly. And I think I remember saying like we haven't seen anything, like it could get fucking brutal and some of these altcoins could lose 95% of their value. And here we are, I guess 6 months later, 10 months later, and
Here we are.
all of us are bloodied and bruised, but hopefully we
You
Wow,
know, we're
guys,
still here. right?
January 18th, Bitcoin was $17,000.
oh shit.
That's wild.
No, boy, I think that was it. That one, or
Good
was
times.
it the third one? I think
Those were better days.
Those were good times.
Great times.
Well, either way, that's I think it's funny thinking back how we thought we had it so tough back then when Bitcoin was at fucking 18 grand.
I
Oh my
hope we
god.
don't look back
Yikes.
like 4 months from now and say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
Killer,
I said,
what's your
last time,
favorite memory?
I think Reptar is going to be writing "Remember Cryptocurrency" articles for BuzzFeed.
Yeah, that was funny. Hey, and you can't see this, but he's been chirping at you the entire.
Yeah,
I sent you a couple.
Well, that's how he's gotten his clout is by chasing.
All of the things Reptar says, just say message deleted by them in chat. It's up to them.
Jack deleted this message.
Killer, what's your favorite memory so far?
Okay. I think my favorite memory is actually the first episode we had. So we started this thing, everybody, and like we didn't even know if it was going to be a thing. You know, we just wanted more people to talk about or to talk crypto with, you know, and so we were just kind of looking for interesting people who were smarter than us, who could kind of not bring us up to speed because we had been in the space, but you know, round out our biases and get new information. But we didn't even know if it was going to be a sustainable thing. So I think episode 100, when it was super sloppy. It was, I mean, Bully, you did an amazing job as a guest, but we were horrendous hosts that episode.
Yeah, we were bad.
Literally sitting on my couch in my living room, like with my laptop on my lap, just being like, "Hey guys," and like I didn't even realize I didn't have headphones on, and like I was trying to host it, and it was a disaster because I was such a bad host. And I remember like starting the recording and being like, "Oh God, like what do I say?" And I just thought we were gonna wing it, you know, and it'd be easy. But I think that's my favorite memory because I remember how far, or I like to think we've come a long way since then.
Yeah. I would that would actually, no surprise to anyone really here, that Killer and I are on the same page. That was what I had written down also, is maybe just, my favorite memory is where we've come from since that first episode. And even, in between like episodes 2 to 10, I think we wrote down an outline for each show, and then we put, we would spend probably an hour or two a day thinking of questions that we had asked all the guests. And now here we roll in and we're like 10 minutes before episode, and we're just like, all right, we got, this person tonight. What do you guys want to talk about? And it even, you can even notice it sounds a lot more comfortable from now to then. Or Shooter along. I got to give this guy a shout out. Shooter Crypto McGavin. Anytime we do a live episode, he's always here. And he said needed some people to dump that Lux back on. It's funny. So, Prince, what's your favorite memory?
Favorite memory? Probably just getting grilled all the time for being a Canadian and pronouncing shit like an idiot. Yeah, it's pretty much a steady.
Bitrex.
Yeah, it's a steady, Litcoin, Bitrex, Binance. What else did I say? Yeah, what else? That's what? Decred. Decred. Yeah, I've had a lot of good ones.
I think my favorite's Litcoin.
Litcoin.
Wait,
to me, it's either Litcoin or Litrock. Those are the only two I'll use.
I love how Ari Paul called you out on Decred. He's like, Decred? Yeah. I've never heard it like that. And like, it was just like,
here we are having a nice conversation, and Ari just stops me.
I used to call it Decred too. I mean, come on. Who the fuck knew how to pronounce that?
Decred.
Yeah.
Stops me, calls me out. But those are probably just getting grilled all the time. That's always fun.
Messiah, since Bully chimed in, I feel too bad leaving you out. Do you have one by chance?
All of them. I love them all. No, I'd say I love the earlier episodes because everybody was still so excited, about everything. There's so much good to talk about. And, I will say, just speaking of you guys, I think it's really obvious, the growth that y'all have all seen over the years as well. The personal, or not over the years, what the fuck? Over the last 100 episode, just the personal growth each of you has seen, and what you were saying earlier really speaks to that. Like when you're saying you just spend like 10 minutes before saying, what do we want to talk about now? I mean, you guys have literally been exposed to all 100 episodes of all these different people and heard these different ideas and viewpoints. So, I mean, I would imagine each of you, has a pretty good grasp on the market and kind of what's happening around here at this point.
Yeah, thanks. And that's one thing I want everyone to understand is still to this day, even, repeat guests, when we hang up, us three usually sit around and kind of shoot the breeze for a while. And every time we have someone come on, we'd say, holy cow, we never thought of it this way, or we never realized that. And so we do learn something every episode. It's been pretty phenomenal. So with that, thank you guys for being on. We're going to wrap up episode 100. We got a lot of people we want to thank. Starting off with all the guests that we've had, this wouldn't be where it is without you guys and all the support, especially early on, the retweets, those guys, a lot of the people had a big following, so it helped get us exposure right away. Shout out to Jeff, our editor, for probably, I'll especially here of late, my audio's probably sucked a lot lately. He does a lot for us. He does great work. We could probably send him an episode on a Wednesday night and say, hey, we need this for Thursday tomorrow, and he whips it out and gets ready for us. We got another one to listen, Destro. He's handles a bunch of stuff for us behind the scenes. Can't give him enough shout out. Crypto Noob Girl, Colleen. She's always been a big supporter of ours and helped us out at that Crypto CoinCon. And then what a lot of people might have either forgotten or not known is that Cali Crypto did a lot of the editing on the first dozen or couple dozen of episodes when he didn't really know anything about editing, but he did a phenomenal job. And he, back to favorite memories was he would always listen in when we recorded early on. And one episode he was talking through a headphone. He plugged his headphone into the mic and was talking through to us. It's just kind of funny.
Hey, I got to take a quick second to say thank you, Callie, as well. For anybody who doesn't know, Callie Crypto is my brother, my younger brother. So I love the guy. He helped us get off the ground. He really did us a solid.
Yeah, totally.
Dude, I had no idea he was your little brother. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
yeah.
and he's good at Twitter too. So follow him on Twitter if you don't already.
I think I already do. Yeah, I definitely already do.
Cali Crypto. The A is a 4. I think there's some other shit, but he's not too hard to find. He's good on Twitter. He's funny.
Yeah.
So thank you, bro.
And I'm a kind of budge in a little too, Killer. He's kind of like Prince and I's little brother too. He takes a lot of shit from. We give him a lot of shit, or used to, and he just took it like a champ. So Messiah and Bully, we want to thank you guys too. Always been big advocates of us and help promote us no matter what.
You guys have always done a great job. I do really appreciate you guys. You said 2 incredible things at the end of the show. Taking it like a champ and whipping it out and getting it ready for us as fast as we need it. So we're really glad that you guys value those things. And
you would say something like that too.
Yeah, man, congrats. This is a big achievement. So well done, guys.
Who would have fucking thought you guys would be here in 100 episodes? I mean,
I know, us too.
Not me.
Yeah. Good job.
All right, so thanks everyone. Killer Prince, you guys got anything final to say here?
No, let's wrap it. Thank you, everyone.
All right, cool.
And wrap it.
Thanks everyone again for listening. We're not gonna slow down. Wrap it. We're not gonna slow down anytime soon. So keep listening. We appreciate it. Let us know if we can do anything for you. Tip that waitress. Keep it up. Peace out, everyone. Stay safe.
Peace.
Peace.